The cellular version of the Apple Watch, actually it's the GPS plus cellular version, lets you make calls wherever you are without your phone with you, or if your phone is dead, or whatever. That's how it works. Unfortunately, in order for you to make calls with a cellular watch, you don't just have to pay the extra money for the watch, but you also have to pay your carrier more. And with some carriers, it's as much as $10 a month. I think there are some that make it free under certain conditions if you have a high price plan, but mostly it runs in that $15 to $20 a month range, maybe a couple of bucks cheaper at some places. So that would seem like a fair amount of money to many people, especially when you're hardly ever going to need it. Unless you're a person that goes out running or walking deliberately without your phone because of all that extra weight that you've got to carry, and you got to get the maximum speed out of this. There's really no reason to do it, is there? Absolutely not, I would think. And it's an expense you don't need for something that you would hardly ever use. Well, not so fast. Here's the thing that I didn't realize when I first was buying Apple Watches. I had no use for a cellular plan. I didn't care about having cellular on my watch at all. Not going to pay that money. Are you kidding me? I'm already paying enough for this stupid plan as it is. Ridiculous. But here's the thing. With a Apple Watch with a cellular capability, not a plan, but a capability, you can always call 911. Not only can you always call 911, but you can call it on any mobile service. So let's say that the tower that you are near, because you're up in the mountains somewhere and you're not really near that many towers, the tower that you're near only carries T-Mobile, and you're a Verizon customer, and it's only for T-Mobile. If you try to get Verizon, you're miles and miles away and you won't be able to do it. It doesn't matter with the cellular watch when you're making a 911 call. It can attach to any available cellular network and make that 911 call for you. And of course, it gives them your GPS location, and you are safe and ready to go on that. So, is it worth paying that extra money? I think it is. I do that now. When I buy a watch, I buy the cellular version. Yes, it's extra money, but if I ever am out, lose my phone, have my phone stolen, whatever, they wouldn't steal my watch because they wouldn't notice it, because I'd do this real quick. Sure, that would stop them. If I'm ever out and need it, there you go. For example, and this happened long before there were Apple Watches in the world, but it's a great example of it. I was in my 40s, so that would have been in the late 1980s. Anyway, there were no such thing as Apple Watches at that time, no Apple phones either. So I had to go out or wanted to go out and shovel my front walk. And my wife was not at home, nobody was at home. And I went out and I started shoveling the walk, and I slipped on the ice, fell flat on my back, and I could not get up. Now, you remember, I'm in my 40s and I'm in pretty good shape, as I have been all of my life. I could not get up, I could not roll over, and didn't have a phone with me, but let's say that this was more like now, and I had my Apple Watch on. I could have made a cellular call, whether my phone was anywhere near me or not, for 911. As it was, I lay there in the freezing cold for about 10 minutes, and then I recovered enough that I could roll over, still couldn't stand up, and crawl to my front door, and struggle to reach up to get the door open, and crawl in, and then fall on the floor, and just lie there until my back recovered, and I could finally get up. Not something that you'd want to repeat, and not something that you'd want to repeat at an elder age. A couple of months ago, I was in the emergency room with my wife, and a man came in who was all bloodied all over his face. But he was walking and talking, so he wasn't hurt really bad, and they told him he had to wait for a little bit. So he sat down, and I said, "Boy, did you fall?" And he said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "I went out to get the mail, and I slipped on the ice." I said, "Oh, boy, that's terrible." Yeah. I said, "Didn't you have a phone with you?" No, I didn't. I left it in the house. And you don't have a watch? No, no, I don't have a watch. I have a watch, but it's just a watch. It's not a smart thing. I said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Yeah, the horrible thing was," he said, "I lay there for 15 minutes and cars kept driving by. I don't know how they didn't see me lying in my driveway. I'm lying there. I'm in agony. I can't get up. And the cars are driving by me. And finally, a nice young woman stopped and saw me there. And she couldn't help me get up, but she could call 911 for me. Oh my, if she hadn't done that, I could have died out there in the cold. It was ridiculous. I could not get up. I could not do anything. And I explained to him that if he'd had an Apple Watch with cellular capability, that he would have been okay. He could have called 911 right away. Well, I don't know if he ever ended up buying an Apple Watch when he left there, but if I were him and I had just learned that lesson, darn well, I would have paid the extra money for a cellular version of the Apple Watch. How about you?